The Senate will come to order. Senators will be in their seats, and the clerk will call the roll.
Alley, Baumgardner, Berger, Billinger, Boyer, Bowers, Braun, Denning, Dahl, Estes, Bauskado, Francisco, Givens, Goddard, Haley, Hardy, Hawk, Hensley, Hildebrand, Holland, Kirshen, Longbine, Lynn, Masterson, McGinn, Miller, Olson, Peterson, Petty, Pyle, Rucker, Skubal, Sulentrop, Sykes, Taylor, Thompson, Tyson, Wagle, Ware, Wilborn.
Senators and their guests, please rise and give prayerful attention to our Senate chaplain, Pastor Washington.
Please join me in prayer. Lord, today we're honored to have many who serve and represent you in our midst, both servant leaders in the realm of the spiritual and servant leaders in the realm of government. And Lord, there are many who look up to us, praying that we get it right. Those that follow us want to see if we found the right way to do this thing called life, this thing called liberty, this thing called love for one another. Yet the judgment of those that look up to us is not the judgment that should really matter to us. The judgment that should really matter to us is yours. So Lord, when you look at us, show us us. Help us to see us as you see us. In James chapter 1, verses 19 through 25, you refer to your word as a mirror. Remind us to check it regularly to make sure we're presentable. When others look at us, help them to see that we've been looking in the mirror. We want to represent you in a righteous way. So when all our efforts on this side are done and we face the final judgment, we want to hear you say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." I thank you for hearing this prayer in the name of Jesus. Amen and amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The chair at this point in time would like to take a point of personal privilege. It's a very special day for us. It's Pastor's Day at the Capitol. And here on the Kansas Senate floor, we are surrounded with pastors in both galleries and here in the VIP section. And I would like to introduce them to you and tell you the community they're from. And hold your applause till the end, please. But I'm very, very thankful that today we're surrounded by prayer warriors and people who are called to care for the poor, the disabled, the elderly, the homeless, the addicted, the broken. And they not only take care of the physical needs of those in their community, they take care of the spiritual needs. So I will call them out by name and they can stand and then we'll applaud each and every one of them. First of all, in the visitors gallery we have David and Debbie Bucamp. right over here. In the VIP box, we have Pastor Francis Nelson, or maybe it's behind me. Okay. Pastor Brad Johnston, Pastor Nate Wilson, Pastor Rob Ratala, Pastor Debbie Ratala, Bishop Stuart Wells, Pastor Tim McVeigh Jr., Pastor Brandon Stratton, Pastor Vicki Taylor, Pastor Casey Robinson, Pastor Ryan Agnew, Pastor Dave Depew, who we know well from the Capitol Commission, Pastor Sam McVeigh, Pastor Scott Davis in the gallery, Pastor Nick Harris, Pastor Arul TT, Pastor Joe Klassen, and of course, Pastor Cecil Washington. Let's stand and give them a warm greetings. The chair would now recognize the senator from Sedgwick County, Senator McGinn.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I have a resolution for Go Red for Women, and I'd like to have the reader please read.
Senate Resolution 1755 by Senator McGinn, a resolution recognizing February 7th, 2020 as National Wear Red Day. Whereas heart disease and stroke kill 1 in 3 women in the United States, yet 80% of the cardiac events may be prevented through education and lifestyle changes, such as moving more, eating smart, and managing blood pressure. And whereas cardiovascular disease and stroke kills 1 woman every 80 seconds in the United States, and cardiovascular disease kills more women than the total combined deaths from cancer, accidents, and diabetes. And whereas 45% of women aged 20 and older live with some sort of cardiovascular disease, women having heart attacks wait 30% longer than men from the moment they begin experiencing symptoms to the time they arrive to the hospital. From arrival at the hospital to the moment women start receiving care, women experience a 20% longer wait time than men, and women are also less likely than men to receive bystander cardiopulmonary resuscitation. And whereas 57% of African American women and 40% of Hispanic women aged 20 and older have cardiovascular disease, and whereas for Caucasian women, cardiovascular disease claims the lives of more women than all forms of cancer, including breast cancer, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, motor vehicle accidents, and unintentional injuries combined. And whereas heart disease and stroke can affect women of any age, and new research shows heart attacks are on the rise among younger women, which serves to emphasize the importance for women to take charge of their heart health. Now, therefore, be it resolved in the state of Kansas, in the Senate state of Kansas, that we recognize February 7th, 2020 as National Wear Red Day by wearing the color red to raise awareness for the importance of the ongoing fight against heart disease and stroke, and we urge all citizens to show their support for women by commemorating this day.
The resolution is officially introduced, number 1755, and the chair recognizes the senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Go Red for Women is a day to recognize the signs that women need to be sensitive to and understand those kinds of health risks that they can have. And it certainly doesn't diminish the health risks that men can have as well, but that's why Go Red is called Go Red for Women. And I want to thank everybody that came today to wear your red, your jackets, your ties, your shirts, to recognize this day. And I'll have a few comments here, but before I do, I'd like to recognize the senator from Shawnee, Senator Miller.
Senator from Shawnee.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you to the senator from Sedgwick for yielding, and especially thank you to the senator from Sedgwick for her comforting words the other evening when I expressed a bit of trepidation rising on this resolution, as I find myself now the second time in just a little over a week pointing out that I indeed am not a woman. And I do not want, by my comments, to take away from the purpose of the resolution, which is indeed designed to heighten people's awareness of heart disease for women that often takes I think, a second seat to some of the other grave issues we may have. But I was asked by the Heart Association to make some comments about my own experience. I will not mention that my grandfather suffered 2 heart attacks, that my father suffered 2 heart attacks, and keeping a family tradition, I have suffered 2 heart attacks, but I'm not going to bring that up. What I will say is that as a young man, a young boy, I remember watching in fascination the news of the very first heart transplant in the world, and understanding what both my grandfather and my father had gone through, I was just fascinated. Little did I know that generations later, my own brother would benefit from a heart transplant, and it points out how remarkably we've progressed as a world, how much medicine has progressed. But the one point I would like to make before I yield back to the senator is we have a long way to go. Not only is heart disease the #1 killer of women, it is also the #1 killer of men. So while our attention should be focused and is focused on women today, there is much more that needs to be done. The work of the Heart Association continues. The work of our medical professionals continues, and with additional research, effort, and attention, we can continue to address the problem. And before I sit down, one last thing I want to call attention to, and that is our lovely young Paige down here. I hope not to embarrass her too much, but I had to ask her, did you know it was dress red for women today? And she said, no, it's just accidental, but she certainly is a standout today, and she's to be commended. I yield back to the senator from Sedgwick.
Senator from Sedgwick.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. And I'd like to thank the American Heart Association for sponsoring this, and we have a couple representatives, if you'd raise your hands up there, for being here today, and I believe they're from Wichita. I'd like to share a few things, my family history, and please hope that you'll be patient, because generally on other bills that everybody likes to talk, I do my best to not talk a lot. So some of you that have been here for a while, I've stood and represented this resolution because of my family history. My real grandfather I never met, died of a heart attack in his early 40s. My father had bypass in his late 50s. And my brother had stents put in when he was 50 and bypass at 60. And on my mom's side of the family, my mom is still living and very healthy, but all her siblings either died of a heart attack or had bypass surgery. So I started paying attention because I saw my family genetics probably about the time I was 35 or 40, trying to learn more about how do you know the signs, what things should we be doing, how should we be eating, and those kind of things. And so started learning about it, and I went to American Heart Association meeting to talk to women about their own heart health. And I found out one of the things that you could do was go in and have an injected dye cardiac stress test. And so that's not something your family doctor will always tell you, and it's because men can get on a treadmill. I never understood this. Knew a lot of men, they get on the treadmill, they have a little glitch. Next thing you know, they're going in and they're getting checked for their heart. And I asked the question, why can't we do that? And it's because women produce false negatives. So you have to have the injected dye, and you probably will have to ask your doctor if you can have that test. So I started having that test, and I probably have it about every 5 years. Did my best to eat right, exercise, as best as we all can. and did that for probably 15, 20 years. And thought I was doing everything I was supposed to do. And while I was on the Newton Hospital Board, we had a presentation from one of the heart physicians about a year and a half ago, and we had a new thing, and a lot of hospitals have it now, but we were one of the first hospitals in the state to do a CT scan of your heart. And it would cost $95, and you paid cash for it, signed up for it. And it was good for us because we were using our machine, bringing people into the hospital. And I asked that doctor, I said, I don't understand this. I go in and have an injected dye test, and I pass it. What's the difference here? Tell me, why is this better or worse? And he says it's just another tool. The thing is, people that have injected dye tests and do a stress test, sometimes your heart can compensate, and sometimes you'll hear about people who exercise regularly and then they'll have a sudden heart attack. It's because their heart was compensating. So what the CT scan will do, it checks the calcium on your heart. So before I was going back to session last year, I decided to go ahead, and it took a while to go take the test. I went and took the test thinking that since I was doing everything I was supposed to do, it would be fine. Got a call from my family physician and said that you need to go see a cardiologist. You pretty much flunked the test. It's a scale. And so I did go see a cardiologist, started on some medications, again, trying to do everything I could, lose weight, eat right, all the things you're supposed to do. And so last session, when you all were standing around trying to figure out how we were going to end session that final day, I wasn't with you because I was at Stormont Vail. And as the president knows there, and many of you know, I was having a hard time controlling my blood pressure. And I couldn't understand why. And just 2 weeks before, I saw my family doctor, and we changed it up, and I still just couldn't get it controlled. So anyway, I spent some time in there. We got my blood pressure down. Came back, got back here just in time to carry the budget on the floor. And then we did another bill. And then we all went home at 3:30 in the morning and got in my car the next morning and headed home. And my thought was, I just need to get back home. I need to get back on the farm. Need to go out there and help birth those baby lambs. And I actually got to pull my first lamb last spring. Tend to my grapes and other things, and I'll feel better, get some sleep. And I didn't get better. I started having signs, chest pain, arm, and I kept trying to put it off because I kept saying, I'm going to see my doctor soon. The blessing for me is I have great girlfriends back home, some in the health profession, some that work with me, kept saying, you need to probably call your doctor sooner. And, when you're in sports, you just think you can tough everything out. Your heart is different. It's not like a bad back or sore muscles. So anyway, I just want to share that thank goodness I had great girlfriends that encouraged me to go in. We came up with a medical plan and to help me, and I feel good. There's lots of things out there nowadays, as long as you're aware. I feel good and I feel blessed. But the reason I'm standing here today is not to tell my story about me. I'm telling you this story because I'm one of the lucky ones, because I had some signs. And there are many, many women who do not get signs. And I asked the doctor, why are they, you don't hear about women getting stents or women getting bypass or whatever. I just hear about women having a heart attack. And he said, the problem is women are usually taking care of the men and they ignore their signs. So I wanted to share that to all of you or to anybody listening on the internet, because you need to listen to your signs. And if you feel that something's not right, you need to see your doctor. And as the senator from Shawnee said, there are a lot of good medications out there now. There are a lot of other kinds of procedures that can help you. And I want to thank the president. She knew that I was struggling, and I want to thank all of you, because I'd like to think the night I carried the budget that you were tired. I'm going to say you were just kind. So anyway, again, final thing I just wanted to say, know the signs, know your family genetics, and don't ignore it. So at this time, Madam President, I move an emergency to be declared, the rules suspended, and Senate Resolution 1755 be adopted by voice vote.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. I hope it's that smooth for all of us this year with the budget. Introduction of bills and concurrent resolutions. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 367 by Committee on Public Health and Welfare, an act concerning health and healthcare. Senate Bill 368 by Senators Denning, Alley, and others, an act concerning the Kansas Public Employee Retirement System. Senate Bill 369 by Committee on Assessment and Taxation, an act concerning taxation. Senate Bill 370 by Committee on Assessment and Taxation, an act concerning state finances. Senate Bill 371 by Committee on Judiciary, an act concerning human trafficking. Senate Bill 372 by Committee on Judiciary, an act concerning liens or claims against real or personal property. Senate Bill 373 by Committee on Judiciary, an act concerning crimes, punishment, and criminal procedure. Senate Bill 374 by Committee on Transportation, and an act concerning motor vehicles. Senate Bill 375 by Committee on Ways and Means, an act concerning transportation. Senate Bill 376 by Committee on Assessment and Taxation, an act concerning insurance. Senate Bill 377 by Senators Lynn, Alley, and others, an act concerning roads and highways. Senate Bill 378 by Senator Peterson, an act concerning employment security. Senate Bill 379 by Senator Peterson, an act concerning public assistance. Senate Bill 380 by Committee on Utilities, an act concerning telecommunications. Senate Bill 381 by Committee on Education, an act concerning the University of Kansas School of Medicine. Senate Bill 382 by Committee on Education, an act concerning education.
This constitutes introduction of Senate Bill 367 through Senate Bill 382. The chair recognizes the senator from Shawnee, Senator Hensley, on a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Since the senator from Shawnee, Senator Miller, referenced the young woman in the front row here, our pages, Zoe, I'm introducing you. Don't run an errand yet. This is one of my pages today. This is Zoe Call. And Zoe came to my office, I think last fall sometime, and asked if she could page. And I said, Zoe, you have a very familiar last name. And she said, yes. Nancy Call was my grandmother. Nancy Call was a longtime executive assistant in the Senate Democratic Leader's Office. I think she served Jack Steiniger and also served Michael Johnston. I think that's the history. So, and it was befitting that she wore red on Wear Red Day. So, Zoe, welcome to the Senate, and thank you for paging for me. Yep.
Reports of standing committees, the clerk will read.
Madam President, the Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources recommends SB 270 be passed. Senator Kirshen, chairperson.
Correction and approval of the journal. Are there announcements? Chair recognizes Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I have an announcement and also another request. First of all, the Senate Judiciary will meet next Monday to accommodate the last day of personal bill introduction, so we will be meeting Monday. And secondly, I'd like to introduce Jared Javon, my intern from KU this year, second-year law student. Thank you.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I'd like to announce that I will have a resolution next week recognizing the 100th anniversary of the League of Women Voters. I'm asking all other senators who are members of the League of Women Voters to join me in sponsoring this resolution. See me, I have a sign-up sheet. Thank you.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Kirshen.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Just a reminder to the committee, we will be meeting tomorrow morning at 8:30, Agriculture and Natural Resources. We're doing the bills we weren't able to do on Wednesday, the day we were off. So we're dealing with underground storage and fees on Friday. That's tomorrow. So just a reminder. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Senator from Lynn, Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The Senate Tax Committee will meet at 9:30 tomorrow with the hearing on Senate Bill 294. We have the room until 11 a.m., I've been told, and we are going to take advantage of that. We'll finish the hearing tomorrow. Thank you.
Senator from Ford, Senator Estes.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Senate Fed and State will not meet tomorrow or Monday, but Tuesday we will be working the sports betting bill.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Just a reminder, Senate Transportation will be meeting Monday morning at 8:30 for our bills that were scheduled last Wednesday.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I just want to let everybody know that Ways and Means tomorrow will meet. We're going to start report outs, but we're meeting at 11 o'clock. We shouldn't go very long, but it is a delayed start at 11 o'clock. Thank you.
Are there additional announcements? Seeing none, the chair recognizes Majority Leader from Johnson County, Senator Denning.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate adjourn until 8 a.m. on Friday, February 7th, 2020.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. The Senate is adjourned.